Hello, Young Legion. If in the last video I showed a number, apparently that was a Wethersfield police number associated with the Sullivan, who didn't give his first name. Sullivans /S. Whole bunch of different Sullivan families, and old Sullivan, and names, misspellings, and forging, and wire crime, mail crimes, interbranch, predicate acts, falsified police reports, various department, various towns police forms involved with the same falsified police reports, human traffic, attaching me to fake arresting officers. They kept switching. Oh, that we made a mistake. We put the wrong arrest. Of course they made a mistake. They put the wrong officer. Now, these are also a whole bunch of foreign and domestic officers associated with East Hartford, note where they build planes. These are also people in East Hartford with people with programs tied to the courts, with people with database organized crime, with the child sex offenders also used by the courts, judges, and prosecutors to hide their criminally foreign influenced crime acts, illusions, roles, preventing free speech, sequence shifting, attaching me and others to fake locations, fake words, fake ties to other peoples. They make fake natures of ties to people too. Now they have a Joshua Julian involved also with the British Superior Court's Facebook page, with more sexual, medical, and judicial, and lawyers involved with wire crimes methods. See, if you call up the Wethersfield police to make a complaint, they say, oh, I don't know about that. Well, let's talk about this. They don't know about that either. You see what I'm saying? They have officers forging names, switching names, and making confessions to make threats that way. Now, state's attorneys did this also. And they attach me and everyone to fake conversations about my family. And then about me. They attach my family and me to fake locations. Other people from the World Trade Center attack contacts they involved with the investigators, with these other natures of organized crime. They had, before the World Trade Center attack from Connecticut, all the locations, inter-campuses and intra-campuses. I never had a conversation with a J. Salvatore. That's the name of the person recorded, confessed, and demonstrated as a victim. Now, I don't know if he has any roles that are other than that as a victim predator, besides the delusions, interbranch, and intermilitary here. And everyone forced to speak through others criminally. So they can pretend we had conversations with people that we never did. And so they can perpetually prevent counters to all the illusions tied to the interbranch kids and the ones associated with them, what they couldn't pretend on paper. They are still, they have to hide from and value hurt, correlation nature. This is what is really having most furthered and exploited the overt criminal enterprises. So if you haven't been following my videos, New York, you know this is especially for you. Distinctly and non-distinctly where it is not most especially for you. It is in demonstration of how that is differential in relationship to one identity of value progression. That is not just reality, but it is reality with an identity of relationship to itself that is described by and as the identity of relationship themselves, that the surface values of the Constitution are simultaneously. Note, regardless if you know what amendment is what. So we have time impositions used all the way too fast, too slow, with fake integrity natures. We have experts on what amendment is what. Delusions, wrought, criminally foreign influence premises treatments, when they say we have free speech. Now get me from the Wethersfield Police Department is recorded, confessed, demonstrate a whole bunch of crime methods through time, having used the police department for child abuses, for fabricating evidences, and then hiding life progressions, pretending their integrity anyway. Because they have a whole bunch of nations keeping that the outcome with the interbranch through time. So the same ones that are countering those. Russians countering Americans, they're only defending their roles with jobs, with database relationships, where this value/value progression is an identity of negative value nature progression. That's why since before cars, George Washington had to leave slavery entrenched in Wethersfield, Connecticut, with the pathology of homes that was forced with George Washington's factory nature slavery, which is recorded, which is actually recorded. It is not by accident they have all kinds of juxtaposed, engineered, bonded, ulterior motivations, natures, needs, interests to pretend they don't realize that, but, oh, we're just pretending, oh, it's George Washington, it's positive. George Washington and James Madison, most importantly, they have a real founding father. Wherein as the ground one, George Washington too. For him to tell no lies, we have to demonstrate how there were still left entrenched fake branches of government in Wethersfield, Connecticut, where he had to come to secure through only capable of semi-counter extortion to that which not only prevented our founding parents and everyone, colonists A through Z, Native Americans A through Z, prevented everyone free speech. Not only that, forced speech. Not only that, forced that, forced words, forced roles with a theater positive called criminal insidious nature. So now, I'm not a lawyer, the police form, not a criminal. The lawyers are also recorded as evidence. Since founding, involved with the branches of government, like with witch trials, Jim Crow laws, slavery laws. Oh, but it's more complicated than that, so they just themed it. Of course they theme it. See, we have to move as one body, species, body of value. So, Jay Salvatore, I'm sorry I have to use your name. I don't know you. I never had a class with you. There are women and men who, when they were kids, I never had a conversation with them. It wasn't a conversation too. Every once in a while, they would have someone tied to him and his cousins who would make a statement to me, like they made a statement to me about you, and they wanted to see what my reaction would be. I don't even know who you are. I know who you are because they repeated intercities your name to me. J. Salvatore. There are Sullivans also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with Park Street through time, involved with the principal sex offenders campus near me, and involved with wire crimes with this Sullivan guy who wouldn't give me his. He wouldn't. And there's also a inspector who I don't know the first name of, and there's also an Inspector Mike who I don't know the last name of, who is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a whole bunch of people tied to a Chris Walters, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with people associated with FBI, with AT&T, who I also found out were involved with judges criminally with this Washington, D.C., and World Trade Center cliques associated with Chris Walters and his roles with federal crimes with Wethersfield Police Department through time. He also gave me a deposition as a stranger kid when I was a kid. His roles with the house of R.I.C.O, further involved with the Salvatore guy and other Wethersfield police, forging names, switching names, Wethersfield police chiefs, family extended and foreign and domestic, his extended family, and his daughter, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by the people involved, everyone speaking through others, with the principal child offenders at campus then and now. I never had a conversation with his daughter, never had anything to do with his daughter. And her husband is involved with people on and off web school, further involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with my town's police chief, leading up to and in the rules with New Year's in New York. Well, now, I'm not saying he's involved. I'm just trying to understand before I forget, because I was curious. Why, in the freezing cold, they would have a big fan on the roof like that, which, is probably legitimate. But then they showed that. Like, why would you put a fan on a roof in the freezing cold on New Year's? Dear Bravo Network, there was also the recorded organized crime method, which is evidence of of journalism, pretending because they're licensed journalism They could speak about reality, but others can't, when they know they are criminally foreign influence takes on reality. Now they have identity of the ground locations. They also attach me to fake with a Wethersfield police all tied to them. And as those same ones are involved on and off New Britain Superior Court with predicate acts. Confessions, a whole bunch of confessions tied to their roles with Facebook police and pages. Now these are people with all kinds of cases. When you're going to see what's actually recorded, you're going to see how they've been involved with, and the other nations are going to say, look, they have no integrity. They have investigations, including that led up to wars with the World Trade Center, where my town's police chief had his family, foreign and domestic, criminally involved with that. A whole bunch of other nations. A Scalora family is also involved with his family, foreign and domestic, with predicate acts against my family, attached me and my family to fake locations, fake ties to him and his other relatives, involved further on off child sex offenders' campuses, with sexual circles, all victims, forged by how they're messing with people's interactions with each other so they could lie about those interactions, and so they could apply those interactions. And they have a whole bunch of crime methods in it. Now there are houses on all sides of the high school. You know what they do too? The courts and police forms distinctly, also evidence recorded how they do it sickly distinctly and sickly non-distinctly. They forge and switch names. And they say things while they're already recording and saying the opposite. And communicate. They have the word say and communicate, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with their juxtaposed natures of organized crime with their child abuses, including medical. They attached me to fake ties to doctors when I was a kid, fake mental diagnosis. A whole bunch of people tied to the Morrow family recorded, confessed, and demonstrated interbranch were influenced in foreign and overt criminal enterprises and people in their sexual circles that they abused. Also, that was applied to the abuses, their roles now with the standing further then and now with the principal child defenders campus. Note that how they forced that sustained in another city off campus anyway. Also with the police forms, intercities, with all the shopping plazas involved with what is dozens of people from New Britain, Central Connecticut, dozens of people from New Britain Superior Court alone involved with this. They're attaching people to fake words because they can't defend. They can't afford logic that's not criminally foreign influence, delusions, wrought, self-value that way. No, they never had the right to legalize criminal and seditious nature to be applied that way. And that's what the nature of the law says. But we have criminal readings of statutes. The proofs of it are how they are preventing people of each age of fact treatment nature from making using simple logic, and how they're stacking names. You know how many names are associated just with the Wethersfield police alone? And their family members. They get their family members. Of course they do. Then they hear me talking. They have to lie now. So they attach me with two Mendez to police to fake words with him. Put me in quotes. There are various natures of courts also involved with organized crime with these Mendez police intercities. And with drug crime roles, with the principal child sex offenders campus, with other school resource officers also involved. With the database organized crime that American history was about, and that our history was about Wethersfield. Mayors. So I don't have to, it's like trying to beg for a response. I want a response because they've been lying to you. I never had, no, they said a Morin family. And these are people when I went to grammar school, that were they had the kids going and of the same age in different classes with different teachers all day. Now they're all distinctions. You can't just change by those physical things. And what was being exploited. In other words, what I'm trying to explain. So we're in the class, but the kids in our same grade are with another teacher. So you never see them. And when there are exceptions, those are influenced by what is off-campus, maintaining on off-campuses further and further roles with self-valued, criminally foreign influenced wrongdoing. Even the little kids, roles with their parents' predicate acts. When I was a young kid, it was before the Debbie Gold got in off-campus. I never had a class with them. Was younger than me, and Andrew O'Brien also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a bunch of their extended family members themselves with Rock Hill Police and with the Wethersfield Police Interbranch on off Rock Hill High School, Rock Hill Child Schools, as evidence per what they're doing inter-campuses and intra-campuses with Wethersfield schools through time and with locations next to the schools. There's a Yagman family also recorded involved with the predicate acts of the Mendez police brothers, attaching me to fake location inside the police department, fake conversation with the older one, though. They had to hide life progressions because their roles with a whole bunch of people recorded tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, federal criminals and federal criminals tied to them with roles, with the locations that were used criminally by them, preventing me and others that asked me for help from Hartford courts and the Britain courts involved in, when I was young, Middletown courts by the same people involved with that same spot. Now those people don't know each other. So I was able to see connections between people that they missed. So they asked me for help regarding Hartford courts and military police. Therefore, military court, they didn't say military court. Involved with men and women off Central Connecticut State University that made confessions, asked me for help with that. Rather than ask them for help on campus, because I understood when I was in grammar school, the same grammar school I caught them not long ago with a principal child offender. Untimely deaths brought this up to me. Wire crime acts and methods brought this up to me. They still have not given me a response, and they used the crime method of forging names, switching names, and forcing family members to speak through others criminally while they're lying about the wire. They're putting fake wire transcripts when someone calls up legitimate complaints to schools. Not by accident, note they've been using all that tied to the negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, criminal ceases natures. I'm not going to say that's what, frame criminal enterprises the way they do. I'm not lured on police. I'm saying whatever. With those sick killers, with the gun crimes that are standard in the first place, there are connections between them. Not only are there connections, you have to follow mandated law. So you would have seen them yesterday. You would have changed the nature of humanity yesterday. These are not our means. Just because, how is that fair if you left out the Forsaken? Oh, well, if they have the work and they have the chance to succeed, they have physical delusions with the opinions of people, also simultaneously with criminally foreign influence supremacist treatments. So we have to be able to counter all the mass sick ignorance that is not formal, and the formal interbranch, intersciences, and intercampuses of each age and nature in private databases simultaneously, juxtaposed with what is actually most furthering and having furthered and exploited most sickly, the overt criminal enterprises too. So it's important to understand how English is simultaneously bigger than and smaller than the other sciences. Where and how there are exceptions, and as exception nature, that is the other languages. Individually grouped and together, they are only temporary positive. Individually grouped and together, they have a further standing quality of diffusion, positive or negative relationship to themselves further. This is what English was revealed to teach. Allah's name was revealed to teach this. This is giving no credibility to not one identity of the ground religious leadership. They are recorded delusions, raw victims, criminally foreign influence, premises treatments, victims with the sciences, abridged. That means the surface values of the Constitution. We're going to see how you're going to discern. We're using science. How the identity of the ground has an identity of relationship to our quality of fact treatment nature with a phenomenon /s/phenomena attached to it, and as one identity of value progression, as the body of forever that is making more of its identity of volume as identity, as an identity of volume distinct from all other identities of volume, that all have distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous identities of relationship to themselves the same way we do humanity, individually grouped and together. We also have all kinds of identity thefts and frauds and acts and methods, roles recorded with, involved with all kinds of mass medical corruption, foreign and domestic, and collusion, tied to the fact treatment. See, this keeps premises treatments defenses, value treatment defenses, increasingly identity treatment to prevent the defenses that can't afford correlation nature, which is identity nature, to have its inherent active and progressive means with free speech. So they kept to perpetually keep each location, area, and state self-valued, criminally foreign influence, delusions, wrought. Self-valuing the causes of that, and the roles keeping that blamed on other things other than themselves. And that's self-value too. So we have a bunch of manifest fact treatment nature, logic, organized crime, logic racketeering. I don't know if it's called racketeering or organized crime. Logic racketeering sounds nice. It's way worse than that, way worse than war crimes, but it's very simple. Predicate acts delivery system method. This is what American history is about. We're going to read it through the Burroughs book, which is also an American book. We have to give some to the forsaken, and we have to give the rest to what we can use. So we have to do something. We have to do worse than just damage control. That means we have to block all damages. We have to we have to win the revolution, which means not physical wars. This means win free speech, not just free speech, freedom to speech, make sound. Means freedom to pull in exceptions and exception nature and sequence shifts to demonstrate that with the criminally foreign influence interbranch and uses of that. They are recorded also with the prisons tied to them, in the families of the leaderships of them, like on off Central Connecticut State University involved, also with the military organized crime acts and predicate acts delivery system method roles. So they're trying to start fights through time with me, with this J. Salvatore, and with people with the name Sullivan that I don't know, who sought me out to confess, record, and demonstrate. Not the J. Salvatore. I never had a conversation with my life. Purposefully. One time I would have in a normal situation, but it's tied to that confessions. And then demonstrations recorded roles at Central Connecticut State University he had, which was confirmation of his roles with the organized crime of people that said that he used to be I never saw him on the track marching. I'm not judging that at all. I used to run on the track myself for training for boxing. Also, boxing gyms are recorded involved with wrongdoing tied to the same house on my street with extended family members. On off central intercities campuses and interstates campuses and worse, involved with predicate acts. Associated also with this Sullivan guy and the mixes of the names. Now, so we have interbranch preventing free speech. They have wire crime acts and methods telling us we can only pick, they sequence shifting, full name stacking. They stack so many names and they don't leave anything on paper which is part of the recorded, they criminally, this is real simple to understand. The interbranch and foreign in collusion with them, and real sick people in collusion with that also, because they're their victims, and of a sustained child abuse that is inter-campuses of each age and nature connected. And then they exploit it per how they have all along the route that goes from Wethersfield through Newington into New Britain, CCSU, on and off Paul Manafort Drive. Note how Paul Manafort drive, and how Paul Manafort are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with sequence shifts that CCSU has with the courts and with the FBI directors and with other agencies and their family members, recorded intercities involved with predicate acts on and off Central Connecticut State University with the child campuses in my town through time. Now they are criminally in the background doing things like pretending people have to prove things that are actually recorded, while they have been stacking juxtaposed natures of organized crime acts roles. And roles with now there's a DeMoro family and all these girls that I don't know at all. Never had, and all exceptions, recorded, criminally exploited. Like, in other words, they just have people yell out things from distances. They have people like, all tied to the same little interbranch, my town's police chief. A whole bunch of departments at Central Connecticut. People won't deny this, but their sensibilities are being coached to speak through other people. So now everyone's speaking through nonsense, and no one's preventing free speech, while the Wethersfield police have been attaching me and other little kids through time to fake, and their family members to fake locations, fake words, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. Prevent lying when they respond to such into databases, putting quotes, pretending things are recorded. That's what's actually recorded. So make sure they don't do that with the conversation I had tonight with one of the women, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with the abuses of the boys and girls. And these are the same ones recorded with elderly homes criminally involved with this Dillon family, and with medical locations involved with this. Dozens of people from Hartford Hospital are involved with drug crimes and untimely deaths on and off Trinity College. Also with various natures of judges and courts and their family members associated with, like a Della Fera family. People associated with a Dr. Shub, his wife rolls with a probate court and Hartford Superior Court. I believe it's a Superior Court. Other natures of Hartford courts are involved leading up to the Trade Center with predicate acts with federal criminal code defendants, a former director of the FBI, and with their family members. These are also ones involved with predicate acts on and off Fox Connecticut News, on and off WFSB. These are also roles preventing people from a quality of fact treatment nature that is free. And while they are simultaneously having been pretending other simultaneously, and they're still doing that. That's in relationship to how they have sanctions as what they call peaceful in relationship to overtly unneeded things like wars. But they have the alternatives, inclusion with it. Inclusion with the chaos of the mind, simultaneously pretending it's legitimate, simultaneously self-valuing what is really what most kept everyone needing the overt criminal enterprises the most for. On and off campuses of each age and nature, simultaneously on and off database relationships, live progressions from everyone speaking through other, not by accident. It is clear as day, since before cars, why and how the pathology of homes was built the way it was. If anyone spoke about considering other, they would hurt those people worse than the witch trials. That's scary. And they gave them fake positive treatments, fake justification, all blaming others. And they became manifest, incapable of defending their fact treatment nature and their identities of jobs, titles, and selves. in groups, and affording American history as it was left by our founders, actually, to be told, from being discerned, which is correlation nature. First thing, our founders didn't have free speech because there was a breaching more organized crime method entrenched here, north and south. They wanted us to say this, they could only semi-counter extort it. And they're going to force then counters to it until as knaves in collusion, as fake branches still not chopped down. See, until we have that truth connected, especially if he didn't say that himself. They say that George Washington said, numbers of people taught us this growing up, that George Washington said he cannot tell a lie. He both did and did not chop down a cherry tree. Now, there are proofs that this is cipher because he had to come to C.T., Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. And what do you do when there's slavery entrenched? You're obviously don't want that. It's a breaching employed organized crime method, worse than war crimes, but simple organized crime method. And then with the roles of that. See, this is what the campus marcias in the ancient gaming system. They are semi-counter extorted. I mean, they are counter obfuscated. And they've been waiting for you guys to help me have mandated law followed. Do it for New York City. Watch what we could do. You guys, pantheism is about this identity of value progression per science. It's not about many gods. It's about God as an algebraic variable. This is about science, what is true always, not denying X is the slightest exception. Then you're denying the order of the value of the order of the finite. You're which is one of the 5 identities of value/value progression that are bonded. Just like our cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall manifest. The walls together, touching. Not just oxygen, and not just air and water coming through. And the elements from the earth, vaccines. I'm not a doctor, not police form. I wouldn't try to be a doctor. In other words, I wouldn't try to be a programmer with the basic, familiarity with how it works that I know. But I could tell you, but just from that, in other words, if there's a criminally foreign influenced expert, which is evidence, they're gonna say things that aren't true. They're gonna defend treatments of positive and negative that aren't true, which is what they're doing here with the coronavirus. As victims, on a mass scale. You see, when Ms. Cortez brings up, it's a big difference getting funded by the little people or getting funded by billionaires. Nothing personal. I love her passion, her person, her intent. But see, that's self-defeating. They were right behind a billionaire the whole time. There are different natures of wealth. And see, and the reason that we don't just go after, let's figure out the bad nature of it. Because this is a competitive market system, Z/S, values are value systems, all at tactical ulterior from the one that is inseparable from everyone. Really. Even though these are inseparable from us too, per the breaching method. This other one is what causes evolution's fruits and gifts. Quality of fact, achieving nature that doesn't have police stack crimes and names, forging and switching and confessions, and sequence shifts. and falsified police reports, wire crimes, falsified transcripts, and then pretend not to understand us when we speak the simple act. And we want to just deal with this thing. They keep making problems by having strangers call me and mention me about other strangers. I asked them for help because I asked them, first I asked the police. They forged names, switched names, attached me to a fake location, even on the Wethersfield Police Department. They were already recorded involved with predicate acts roles since I was a kid. With the name, said in communications. You know what he said? Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. And in other words, you see all the time on television shows and stuff like that like every year through lives. They show the police like, oh, we're trying to catch this guy as a liar. The interbranch, the sciences, the foreign, everyone's a liar. Now people have to react to everyone, all that exploits that. So people are raised to be liars. That's why I'm referring to this as child abuse. Because also the experts as types of the types of child abuse that unfold and stay manifest with this. The types of experts and expert reactions to it are defenses of identities like of jobs and of titles that can't defend that and discern what is actually discerned, which is how those identities are in collusion also with what they are about to be against. They're in defense of their identity. Those are my colleagues. I don't know anything about that, but I'm going to stand up for them. Put something on paper then. Interbranch, and they say, okay. Well, then they forge names, switch names, just put fake conversations with me. They have a Leahy family. I don't even know where they live. I know they are further recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with sexual, medical, and interbranch drug cliques with on-off child campuses and other campuses connected, sustained, connected, illusions, predicate acts roles, wrongdoing roles, sequence shift roles, falsified police reports roles. This Leahy family is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a Tim O'Brien. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also with people associated with this R.I.C.O, with all three corners of, or the two corners of, and all three corners on Highcrest Street, the principal child defenders campus. Now with Phil Scalora and two Mendez police, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with this Salvatore, and a whole bunch of people with the name Salvatore, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts intercities, with and with former director of the FBI. That doesn't mean these are the. When did our organized crime countering bodies have integrity? When did an identity of the law have integrity when they spoke for Hartford, Connecticut, let alone for New York City? I'm going to show you how to be rhymeless. Everyone, boxings, it's fun. So New York City, there are family tied to, and doctors, a whole bunch of names, forging names, switching names, confessions. So they use triages, for example, when they're involved, when they're caught up with everyone speaking through other people, and then they get caught with confessions tied to untimely deaths on and off campuses. Now they have intercities crimes, untimely deaths rolls and stuff like that, and confessions from strangers tied to it. And they uses of that to prevent counters to the overtly, someone doesn't know you, and they're forging names. You have deans forging names and switching names with agencies and with judges involved criminally, prosecutors, and their family members. From off campuses, maintaining on off campuses further fact cheap in nature styles. They can't defend that and afford anyone having free speech and correlation nature true. So these are also people with Wethersfield town offices further involved. Per person who pretended to be or was a Chris Walters, and or someone would trying to say his name like that and trying to make it, and wouldn't repeat his name. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the predicate acts, wire crime methods, and acts associated with the Wethersfield Police Department. Chris Walters is the guy I barely know of, and his family member I don't know. I never had a conversation with him at all. People tied to them recorded, confessed, and demonstrated his wedding was involved with people from the Britain on off Central Connecticut State University involved with federal crimes with judges on off Paul Manafort Drive, and with their uses of CNN and of Fox News and of all the fake sides of correlation nature's trinity here, inherent, active, and progressive. So if you guys help me, I'll help you. And what the borough's book will fund, I'll let you guys keep the whole book, and we'll make the book. We'll make the book for the country with that. That we're going to use for the. It only feels like game /S evolution science. Now we're going to need equality of fact, human nature, interbranches recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. They pretend that free speech is allowing someone to make a sound, and they just attach more and more lies to them. They're pretending that they're legitimate while they're illegitimately and criminally, insidiously preventing people from reporting specific crime acts while they stack more of them. Then they consciously criminally exploit the fact, human nature, impositions, and reactions of the people who can communicate more honestly and more prolifically than themselves, who they're pretending can't speak English properly. This is also on a mass scale why and how people who get in the way of strangers trying to ask to report specific crime acts with kids, they have drugs in their dialogue. They have pretending people can't speak clear, even when that's true. All exceptions in exception nature are recorded having been and being criminally exploited. I've studied how our roles with the manifest linguistic reactions to what is inter-campuses recorded, confessed, intercities leveraged against Hartford, Connecticut. Leverage it, which is one of the cities most hurt by gun violence and by other natures of violence in the nation. Not by accident too. It's mixed when the people from that city get hurt out of cities. They're connected. So we have murders in Wethersfield also connected to the people involved on and off Two-Rod Highway. There's a reported now, these are all people that are reported, confessed, and demonstrated tied to a Joe DeMoro and to an Eric Oliveri and Eric Jensen with the R.I.C.O involved, with the federal criminals, with the predicate acts with Wethersfield Police, and with roles with the federal criminals tied to former director of FBI's co-defendants, and as them and their family members. Also that the two Mendez police in Hartford are involved with, as the ones involved on and off Wethersfield Police Department with predicate acts. The older one attached me to fake conversations with him. He also had roles with predicate acts with databases when I was a kid. See, but I never was allowed to get anything in writing. And I thought that I would be able to explain that sooner than I could. But then I found out how intercities is tied. So there are dozens of people that I never had a conversation with from my town at Central Connecticut State University, who all exceptions, exception nature, are recorded having been used criminally. They have recorded rolls with. There's also a person who I was jogging one time in the summer, and when I got to a spot near the Samuel Dick's house, someone offered me water. Two people from a water bottle, which is strange. Now, also, that location has a Pandolf family and has a Yagman family, also involved with predicate acts with prosecutors and with the Wethersfield Police Department through time, and with databases crimes, and with weird confessions, tied to people all along Route 3, tied to people near, on off where the Wethersfield Police Department is nowadays, and with on off Town Line Drive. There are people from foreign and domestic involved with predicate acts, with people tied to this Pandolf family, and to prosecutors and judges involved with them wire crime acts, roles, and methods, tied to what we're studying, which American history is about, which is about this predicate acts delivery system method, which is about how they don't, not just, oh, it's free speech, or it's not free speech. It's not. Get out. Boxings. I'll teach you things. So, who will have courage? And, we'll have a leadership. Most of it will go. And to where it's going to be so great. Because when you have everyone with real evolution, science only feels like fruits and gifts and games. Who trains? Where do you think humanity came from? You think anything could evolve from anything you see that's not tactically, overtly denatured? Landscape. Space. It is landscape theater as standing criminal and seditious nature of manifest defenses of it. This is only capable of defending fake integrity in relationship to that by valuing contrast to the overtly forsaken. This is per that method that left everyone forsaken, including our founding parents, who would be going like this because you stole their speech, and you do it as you're led to it by this child abuse method that's sustained inter-campuses and intra-campuses tied. So that was part of how I know about the intra-campuses, because they time it too. Because then if you had a personality, you would be able to react. They're just the little girls reacting normally. No, that was a timed. These are all the people that got involved with predicate acts that don't even realize it as victims. Then they're going to have to make opinions that everyone's speaking to others. They're going to rely on others. In other words, I don't have to have a conversation with those people. If they want to, they could do it right here. In other words, a whole bunch of men and women from Central Connecticut State University, through time, have recorded predicate acts rolls with campuses on my town, attaching little kids to fake locations, fake words, fake ties to other people. Then when they hear me talking about that, they use their kids to hide their libel aggressions. Well, Dad, I heard, or Mom, I heard you at WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, you guys are doing bad things. Of course they're doing bad things. You fix the fake news. And you stop pretending to be, don't let them take positions on anything. Don't let them pretend to be about integrity for 1 second. Have them follow mandated law, fix their sequence shifts, and get a response for them, because this is way since before the coronavirus started. This is every year since the World Trade Center, since leading up to the World Trade Center, and in the World Trade Center attack context. I had already been asking to report what I found out was tied intercity. Afterwards, also to the former director of the FBI. It's not just the Wethersfield police chief. It's not just, I believe an O'Brien family, probably maybe higher than ranking than him, maybe, who knows. But the O'Brien family is also with Sandy Hook families, with fire departments. There's an Inspector Mike, I don't know the last name of. There's this Sullivan, Officer Sullivan, I don't know the first name of. And they have the names forging and switching and the wire crime method of threatening that way. Because they make confessions about that. They make confessions to me and others about the Wethersfield police chief's roles with them forging names, switching names. Wire crimes, having people call in fake police reports, fake concerns, as the people roles with the forcing the child abuse is sustained, of juxtaposed natures, because the experts in relationship to the types of crimes are also recorded. That's part of the fact-cheating nature racketeering for forcing such. So they also have all kinds of slander methods and roles and reactions in relationship to how they keep victim-predator relationships to off campuses maintained. You're supposed to rely on types of experts. Now we'll have to go with the Rocky Hill campuses. Now, so it's all tied to the wire crimes and how they name stack. They have so many names. You're going to see how they criminally. So it's very simple to understand. They forge names, switch names, and they stack dozens of names. Then they pretend not to understand people, while they're attaching me and others to fake quotes. These are roles with used Congress remotely. So we're going to have to get out from, it's either a billionaire or come on, Miss Cortez, you can be greater than this. Because the longer you defend that quality of fact-cheating nature, broken, fake freedom, the deeper, the more it'll be exploited. Already, it's recorded. You guys can't defend your fact achievements, both sides, both parties. Alternatives, in collusion against all exception nature. In the beginning, actively, and in the end, exception nature is the only nature. It's showing us its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that, which is only increasing. The volume of the identity of the body, the volume of the body of the identity of forever. The identity of the body of forever is only increasing. Forever's value is only increasing. Only the extent of it is debatable. And who debates such is recorded reliant upon physical delusions and criminally foreign influence premises treatments, not by accident. Abridged, right there. Reliant upon those styles. Fake sides of correlation nature. You're going to examine how the courts have been using and how the police forms, with a whole bunch of other nations, all modern nations doing at the same time. They've been using investigations and investigators to cover their lie progressions. They've been kept needing to do this per what is a vertical and horizontal database tied organized crime method using identities, value/value progression as a self-valued roles, self-cultivated roles into and as a breaching organized crime. Identity of negative value nature, progression, as a standing criminal in seizures nature, the body of humanity. All right. Thank you for coming out this evening. Anthony Wall is at youtube.com/user/RomulusWall. See, the species body of volume is simultaneously bigger than and smaller than physics simultaneously. It's an identity of relationship to itself and the value progression that is surging through, and as it's surging through all things alone. Boxings, come on. But so we'll examine this, how it is a value/value progression, how coding can't help but work in relationship to what English was revealed to teach. Before music theory This is why and how the notes are manifest with the physics that way, individually grouped and together bonded. You can hear those bonds. Like sayings. I tell you things. So, Anthony Wall. We'll examine this inter-industries. We could do it all. We could use pantheism to fund whatever we need. We need to put the species body in a hospital at once, including we have to put the identity of the ground tactically denatured, even where there is not across the globe. You think the ground the way it is, the lawn, if we stopped and we just left it alone, things would. They would not. There was a show on what would happen if humanity died off. Reactors would burn through and things like that. Where did the seeds come from? Not from what we're on top of. They came from an identity of ground relationship to itself using water. We put it all underground so we could stay rolls with that value/value progression using since before cars. The pathology of infrastructure of means to it, and as the designs of the houses, forced with the fact, cheap nature, torture of, and slavery are our founding parents. So, we could all together make our character actors, and we switch the colors too, so it's not so depressing, because not one human could stand slavery. That's why they put it. It's a breaching organized crime method. It kept every person, A through Z, Native American, A through Z, nations, defending what they can't defend individually grouped it together and counter what exploits that on a mass scale. And it is completely fact treatment nature oriented. That's why we're going to understand, we're going to use terms like criminal insidiousness. We're going to use phrases like criminal insidiousness. We're going to use these phrases like sequence shifts. We're going to use identity. The same reason, but more reasons, more important reasons than why computers use identity. As a word /value progression. Yeah. Tell you English best alone. Like sayings, come home. So the 26 letters of the English alphabet are like 26 bonded cells of one body of volume, increasing, but positive or negative to itself. It's invisible but still discernible. Identity of value progression that will only stay positive to itself. Exception nature, for example, is Leith of Hadith, which is more probably than the experts will tell you, forced space nature transfer, which is it will only stay positive. This one species too long has been criminally foreign influenced, self-valued, and exploited that way, as standing styles of liars, and pretending others simultaneously. Oh, well, that's just... Because a victim, that's why you have to understand what is recorded force sustained as fake positive against where little kids need to have people tell about positive and negative correctly. But everyone doesn't. Inter-campus is connected, and they blame other things other than themselves why that is the outcome. That is maintained outcome. How that is exploited in relationship to the value/value progression at the end of highways, along routes and around people with corners of streets, houses. Note they had slavery. The houses that had slavery in them, that are still standing where they had slave quarters in them, those are often near the corners of streets. This is exploiting how we are our value/value progression in relationship to really why it is important, and that's critical, to understand the surface values of the Constitution simultaneously. So you will also examine how identity of the ground, types of religions, and their defenses of their identities and the debates with each other are with those physical delusions self-valued by the ones with the psychology, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously with that, and simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously with the branches of government.